Success in farming is all about precision and efficiency, ensuring every seed, every drop of water, every nutrient and treatment counts. Terraplex Ag is helping farmers all over Iowa and the Midwest do just that. With precision ag drone technology and support from Terraplex, you'll boost your productivity and make timely and informed decisions, all while reducing your costs and increasing your profit. It's time to revolutionize your farming. Harvest the benefits with Terraplex Ag. Visit TerraplexAg.com.
Chris Williams, Brent Blum, from the Wild Rose Casino Studio. It's Williams and Blum, presented by Mechdyne, on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network.
Bring in the horns, baby.
Have you heard? The football program over there at Iowa State University, 8-2, ranked 27th in the nation.
22nd. Yeah, 22nd.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay.
What'd you think I said?
You kind of cut out a little bit on me, like you lost your voice, like you were yelling or something.
Well,
too much meat.
Meat Fest will do that to a man. It happens to the best of us. Yeah, no, my voice is shot. That's what happens when Wags comes to town. You just never know.
How late did the show go last night?
The show went really late. Yeah, I think I got off the air about 12:40. Got back to the camper. I didn't go to bed until at least 3:30. Because especially after a win, like there's just so much to do. Like people are so excited and everything, which is good. I'm not complaining about it at all. It's when I love to do it. But it was a late night.
Late night. And then everyone's got the tiebreaker scenarios, and I'm still confused.
That's really confusing.
I think I kind of understand it.
Yeah, we'll get to all that. Oh man, you're not kidding around on that. That is like a whole other wrinkle that none of us have any experience with, because like you feel like we could all like seed a Big 12 basketball tournament in the back of our head, like after all these years. Although that's going to be different now too. But this is complicated, and it's really, honestly, it's quite stupid the way to crown a champion to like these teams that don't even play each other, and like the fact that you can get knocked out based on like if Arizona State loses or like who you don't even play, like it's
based
all
on
dumb.
a game in September between two opponents that you didn't play.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's not perfect. That's certainly for sure. What is perfect is the 8-2 university football program at Iowa State getting off the schneid, getting off the deck. Loved what I saw from that football team on Saturday night. I know you did too. I want to thank Mechdyne, our presenting sponsor, the Mechdyne Corporation, proud partner of Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. And if it weren't for them, Williams and Blum wouldn't even be here. That's a God's honest truth. We're in the Wild Rose Casino Studios, and the kind of an overused word, pretty gritty win though last night, right? Because it wasn't like it was anything sexy. The offense was, for the most part, pretty underwhelming. Although the efficiency towards the end, we'll talk about, really was impressive. The defense kind of like the last stand for John Haycock's squad. It felt
cool.
like got McLaughlin back, got Dominic Orange back. Malik Verdon was able to play.
Ellis played a lot.
Jacob Ellis played more than he has in months. But yeah, there was nothing sexy about it. But remember last week said a lot of times, and I know that you did too, that we think like this is when Campbell's at his best. These types of situations because he's the best CEO out there. And yeah, that was my big takeaway from the game. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and I think, what I had to remind myself at times in the first half is the other team has good coaches too. And I thought Tyson Veit did an awesome job of knowing what Iowa State's strengths were and took it away.
Yeah.
And there was times in the first year going, what are we doing? Well, I think Veit took a lot of the passing game away and was daring Iowa State to run it mainly with the quarterback because he's like, I know you don't want to. I know you don't because Iowa State does not want to run Rocco. Like they really don't because he is vital to the success. And that's why there was that weird sequence in the second quarter where I'm down with my buddies in Section 5. Shout out to Section 5, good people I met in that section yesterday. And I'm like, what is going on? Like I texted you, I was like, what is going on here? And I think Cincinnati was a big reason for that. And then the second half finally got a little bit more balanced run game going, and just a gutty win. Like that was not pretty. It's not one you're gonna write documentary about. But Iowa State figured a way against a good Cincinnati team. Listen, this is a Cincinnati team that beat Arizona State, who's now 8-2, right? Like it's a Cincinnati team that's done a lot of good stuff and had a good plan for Iowa State, and the Cyclones found a way to get it done. And fortunately for them, I keep coming back to it. I know at the end of the day, it's what Campbell talk about winning in the margin. C-Dub, look at the turnovers and the penalties yesterday.
Yeah,
that decided the game.
Oh, and there's part of it too where you're playing November night games in Ames. Like sexy really shouldn't be your, like that shouldn't be the MO for this program. I give you a lot of credit because I think that you nailed it last week when you said I don't necessarily know if I want to go out and go air raid. They clearly I thought they did two things last night, and one of them I'm writing about for our premium subscribers. You guys will have it up later tonight. But one really they did try and lean into the complimentary football thing even after and shout out to Matt Campbell and Taylor Mauser for that. That defense was atrocious against Kansas. And there's a lot of reasons why. And we to trust them, to trust Haycock the way that they did, and to not overcompensate the way that an idiot like me was yelling. That's why they're there and I'm here. And shout out to you because you said that last week when everybody was hyper emotional. You're like, I don't know if, just going out and trying to score 100 points is which that's stupid. Of course you would want to score 100 points, but clearly they were trying to keep the defense off the field, and that 7-minute and 33-second drive in the fourth quarter was a real that was a man's drive. So shout out to them for that.
Yeah, I thought Iowa State mostly controlled the game, where it felt like the Kansas game in particular. Iowa State really actually controlled most of the Tech game and then just lost it late, which was that one. That game in particular is going to be one of those games 20 years from now. Like I think we all feel that now. Kansas was just better, and Kansas dictated terms. I thought Iowa State largely did what it wanted in regards to tempo, possession, and do you have the time of possession up in front of you? I mean, Iowa State had to be significantly ahead there.
I can yesterday.
Get it. Iowa State runs here. I got the plays here. Iowa State runs only 57 plays yesterday. So
it was a dead game. Yeah. That first half went really fast too. But then there were all those freaking pre-snap penalties.
Yeah.
I've never seen a team have more pre-snap penalties than Cincinnati did.
Cincinnati had 13 penalties. 13 penalties.
Iowa State won time of possession by 3. So not as strong as you would think, but they didn't really throw the ball much either. So,
well, I think but yeah, you're right. So penalties, I mean, to Iowa State to have only 57 plays, which is the same amount as the Houston game. And honestly, that game kind of reminded me of that, where it just felt like Iowa State had a little bit of an advantage, and then the offense gave the defense enough time to rest, specifically because Iowa State's down even now a couple more guys, which
Yes.
isn't great.
Didn't see
J.R. Singleton goes out.
Brazina was out last night.
Brazina was out.
Singleton went out last night.
And thank goodness, I thought Dom Orange played the best game he has played in a couple of years.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And that was a must.
He was a disruptor. The Pro Football Focus stat I kind of circled was 3 hurries that he had. That's hard to do from that spot, but they didn't pass that much, so it tells you how disruptive he was up front.
Well, and he is so valuable, and I think he proved yesterday how much Iowa State missed him against Kansas because they could not get any disruption at all against KU, and he is such a force that when he wants to be, he can be a disruptor in that 3-man front. It changed everything, honestly. I thought Dom Orange changed the complexity of the game, and then C-Dub, I don't know if you noticed, but if you go back and watch, actually when Singleton was healthy, and then Hawk, who came in for Singleton, they had Dom lined up as an end. Like he was getting pressure on the outside a little bit too. Yeah, so they played him some defensive end and it worked really well. So I think that is something that you'll see more of because I thought Hawk came in and played great. And I don't know how much we're going to see of J.R. Singleton the rest of the year, but Zamir came in, another young guy, and played really well. So that was encouraging. But I thought Dom Orange and Will McLaughlin, just that veteran leadership, and then Malik Verdone having healthy for the whole game too, or as healthy as he's going to be. Another massive plus.
Kind of proved what we thought too. I mean, Freeler, how much better is he when Verdon's next to him? You know,
the secondary was awesome. You know what? If you and you can't do this because it bothers me when people say, well, you know, Iowa State didn't run it really well at all, but you know, especially if you take away a couple of Rocco runs, like you can't take away the Rocco runs, like it all.
Yeah,
it's all part of the same game.
So that's the other point that I was going to get into. Because we saw this last week against Kansas. Remember, if you remember correctly, I was pretty excited about the offense last week, believe it or not. I thought that the red zone thing is a bit of an anomaly, coming around eventually. And again, not a sexy offensive performance, but they are doing something. We talked after the Tech game about Iowa State's need to be able to get defenses off balance.
Yep.
Because they were bringing so much pressure. And I think the line is what it is. It's fine. Iowa State doesn't have a great line. It's not terrible either. It's just like an average Big 12 line. Maybe a little bit.
It didn't grade out. Didn't grade out well again.
Yeah. But it's had moments where they looked really good, right? Like, so I'm not gonna like. It just kind of is what it is at this point.
You're game 10, right? You're not changing the world at this point.
Correct. They are an adequate line. And I think we all got a little bit frustrated probably in the middle of the second quarter with the first down run calls and all this stuff. You know what they've done now since the Tech game? They have run more play action passes in the last 2 games than the rest of the season probably combined. I'm just going out on a limb. I would need to actually back the data up and go, and I will do that. But clearly what they are doing through my very amateur football mind is setting up the play action pass. They are hitting it at an astounding rate on the play action pass in the last 2 weeks. You're looking at close to 80% completion percentage, a couple of touchdowns out of that, and high yardage. But more importantly, what that does, and we saw it specifically in the fourth quarter yesterday, is it helps your running game. You can't just tee off on Iowa State now because they've shown you that they are stubborn and going to continue to try and run the football. Okay, so that you have to respect it, even if you don't. You have to respect it. Well, then you pop them on a couple of these play actions, and then all of a sudden, you know, I thought Cincinnati was on skates there in the fourth quarter, and you broke open the big run. So, like, I'm a pass to set up the run guy. Said that for 10 years, but you can do that in different types of ways, and like. I see what I think this is what they're doing. Again, I'm not a coach, but what do you think of that? Because the play action numbers from the last 2 weeks, it's been a massive. You could tell in my mind that they were like, we're going to get blitzed. We don't have Bramer, right? We don't got these tight ends to stretch the field right now, do all this stuff. We got to find a way to back these guys up. And to me, this is what Iowa State is adjusting with.
Yeah, you got to find a curveball, and it's either play action game or honestly it's the quarterback run game. And Iowa State is try to do both. And that's why Moberly played. Everyone's like, what do you do? What is Moberly doing? Well, you don't want to get Rocco hurt. Moberly is a very good athlete, a very good runner.
Probably a better runner, like just straight line than Rocco. Like
no question.
Yeah.
No
okay.
question. So that I don't kind of caught people off guard. Like, what is this all about? Well, there's a reason for it. Like, you need to keep them guessing. And C-Dub, like, you can't. The issue is not, and I say this half jokingly, but not every play is designed to be a touchdown, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is a bit of cat and mouse here, and if Iowa State doesn't run it, bang its head against the wall a couple times in that first half, and trust me, I was as frustrated as anybody.
Oh, I was.
That play to Steve O'Klotz doesn't work. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't
right.
work. I mean, that
absolutely right. So they were setting a lot up.
It's a lot of, like, based on what you're getting, you try something else. And Cincinnati had a great plan. Like, in the first half, they had a great plan, and Iowa State finally figured out how to break it. And they did what a lot of other teams have done to Iowa State, send a bunch of pressure. When Iowa State is in tight, they're going to, send people after the run game. And Iowa State needed a way to get them off their feet a little bit, and finally did. But yeah, I think you're onto something. This is never going to be a team, as much as we joke about it, that's going to throw it 60 times a game. I just don't think it's good for Iowa State. We've seen them try to do that, and then the defense gives up 500 yards. So that was Iowa State's just trying to gut out and find something to get Cincinnati off balance enough, and finally it did.
We were texting about that in the second quarter, the complimentary football thing. And I think I said to you, I go, it only works when the defense can stop some. But that was right after Cincinnati went right down, and we were both just kind of
that first drive for Cincinnati. Everyone's going,
didn't look great. Didn't look great, Coach. It was like, but no, like I don't know. That was my take on the offense. Probably a little more analytical than what our audience is looking for, but that's what I'm seeing. It is a group that is evolving. You also see now with 3 games to go, so that would have been how many games to go? 2 games to go.
Yep.
Bringing some of these freshmen in who haven't played this year because they don't have to burn their red shirt. Eskildson, the wide receiver.
Eskelden.
Eskelden. Thank you. That's a brutal name to say. I have said that name 15 different ways. He played 15 plays. He actually graded out the best of anyone on Pro Football Focus.
He's been a nice player all camp long, all practice long. I mean, people don't realize because he doesn't look like a high end guy. I mean, he's a 10-6, 100-meter guy down in Texas. He's got a chance to be, a really, really nice piece for Iowa State going forward. He just catches everything, and he showed that. I mean, that third down catch he had, was that third quarter?
Yeah, big time catch.
It was one of the bigger plays of the game, and and then even like Aiden Fleur coming in, who
he played 4 snaps.
Yeah, but he had the one nice carry, but he had more snaps than Jalen Jackson. And Flora, I mean, if people don't know, he's from Adel. He went to ADM. He's a true freshman walk-on, getting big-time snaps in a critical Big 12 game.
Well, what I saw in his little, it's like, this isn't a shot at the other guys, but like he did exactly what he was supposed to do. He had positive yardage in a couple of those, and I could see why that's appealing to, the running back group right now to just do that, because again. Oh, and shout out to the tight ends last night. They had a really good night. Burkle,
Burkle was awesome day catching the ball.
And again, like, I'm not anti-tight end. When you're out there, you got to do something, right? Like, you have to either be blocking or you have to be able to catch a ball and be a part of the passing game. And last night they did both really well. I thought the tight ends had their probably best game since Bramer's been out. Definitely.
And Steve-O's getting healthier, and you're seeing now the last couple of games. What they thought they were getting with him. So
he's had a rough year with injuries.
Yeah, he's been hurt.
People don't know about.
Interestingly, I'm looking at the run pass splits yesterday. C-Dub, let's see, 35 passes for Iowa State, 34 runs.
There you go.
So, and I'll have to look in a little bit deeper for Wednesday's show, but I'm going to guess in Iowa State. So Iowa State's losses. Let's do this quick math here. 38 passes against KU, 24 runs. And that was the one that got away the most.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Tech game was 38 and 38.
Mm.
So generally, Iowa State wants to run it more than it throws it, but balance is still the key. I mean, yes, we've joked about it. It's just Iowa State's never going to be successful in its current setup, specifically without Ben Bramer, if they're going to throw it 45 times.
I think a few sponsors, and then I want to dig into the defense just a little bit, and then it's going to be a wild Wiffles Hybrids Big 12 segment. Because
that's why I wore the hat today.
Yeah, there you go. Looks great. Looks great, my man. Thank our buddy Colin Newell. Buy your insurance with him. Farm Bureau Financial Services. What are you waiting for? Colin, spelled with one L. He's also on the Inside Zone show, which will be a good one. I know they're recording at the exact same time we are right now with Jacqueline Cordova, Jairel Brock, old Remy, Jake Rimsberg, and Colin Newell. They record that every Sunday night. And my friend Jeff Kelderman, Mark Stack, all the guys over at Kelderman Manufacturing, we thank them for supporting the show. The defense notes that I have, it sucked to see Singleton go out. It's just like this group can't catch a break. But, wow. Did you expect that game from Jack Sadowski? Because
no,
I didn't.
Another great point.
Honestly, like maybe he gets my game ball on the night. 52 snaps for Sadowski. Really has not played much at all this year. He was really, and it almost is like they made a line change at linebacker.
Thought same thing. Yep.
Right? Because McLaughlin's back. Didn't see that coming. They completely threw a knuckleball at us there. I had no clue. Did you know he was playing?
I got a hint Friday.
Okay, I had no clue.
I just got a hint. Like, somebody said we're gonna have a linebacker back. I'm like, well, it's not Caleb, so it's like it's got to be Will.
Well, Brazina didn't even suit up.
And Brazina didn't even suit up. Right. Good thing. By the way, good thing McLaughlin and Sadowski both played pretty well.
They did. You know, McLaughlin graded out horribly.
Did he? Oh, okay. We'll just have him.
But
you know,
this is the point I would make. Colin and I talked about this in postgame. When you watch that Kansas game back, what was so frustrating about it is this: like, missed tackles suck, right? Like, doesn't it suck when your team misses tackles? But at least you're slowing a guy down. Against Kansas, they weren't within 5 yards of where they were supposed to be. McLaughlin's not going to grade out well because he's rusty. He hasn't played in whatever. He's going to get better. He's going to be really good in 2 weeks against Kansas State. Like, I don't worry about him at all. Point is, he knows where to go. And that's really the biggest thing, is that you've got more experience back. Even if Jacob Ellis isn't Lawrence Taylor, I get it.
Nope.
Right? But, like, these guys are at least, they just looked fresh. All three of those guys looked like they were playing in September. Does that make, they look faster?
I think it, in really, if you look at the way that game played defensively, the two big runs for Sorsby, which were breakdowns, but otherwise everything was pretty much, in front of you. To your point, this was not the Kansas game where Kansas guys are just running free. It's not as if Cincinnati was not trying to have guys run free. Iowa State, after that first touchdown drive for Cincinnati, where I think everybody in that stadium is going, oh my gosh, here we go again. We're going to need to score 50 points today. Only 10 points. The rest
pretty
of the game,
good.
Which is pretty good. The Iowa State statistical
vintage Haycock.
Yeah, it's the statistical profile for Iowa State's defense is unlike anything I've ever seen in my time as an Iowa State fan. All right, let me explain what I mean by that. Iowa State is now C-Dub 105th in the nation in rush defense. Okay. They're giving up 184.5 yards per game, which if you would have told me that Iowa State 10 games in was going to be giving up 185 yards per game, I would say
it was going to be a long year.
Oh my gosh, we are hosed. So this is the interesting part of the Power 4 schools that are worse than Iowa State in rush defense. Here they are. You're going to notice one theme. All right.
Okay. All right.
Okay. We've got Florida State.
Mm-hmm. Bad.
We've got Purdue.
Ugh.
We've got Mississippi State.
Ugh.
We've got Oklahoma State.
That's a rough group.
Those are the only 4 schools worse in the Power 4 than Iowa State in rush defense.
That's incredible.
And there's Iowa State somehow, some way, and I bet it's never happened in a long time in this current era of college football. Iowa State is allowing 50 yards fewer passing yards than rushing yards against its defense. It's totally mind-boggling. Cyclones are 3rd in the nation in pass defense, 105th in rush defense. It doesn't make sense. And yet, through all that, they're still top 20 in the nation in scoring defense, which at the end of the day, I don't really care what happens to get there. If you don't allow the other team to score, that's the point.
Yeah.
And John Haycock is doing this, like we said, with duct tape, Band-Aids, and sometimes a good bounce here or there. But the job that they've done with as much situation as they had, including yesterday, was a great example of sometimes it's not about talent. It's just finding a will and a way to win. And that's what that defense is doing right now.
Yeah, Barnes played too at linebacker. So Ryland was still out there. They're playing a lot of guys. You know, Goodwin got some snaps. It wasn't like they just benched them all. I just thought it was necessary to mix that up, and it just you could just see it was like a relief to have more bodies.
Yes, I thought Zamir Hawk had a nice vibe in there. Like he provided some energy. The guys are pretty lively up on the sideline too.
We don't know the details on Singleton, but anybody who watched it didn't look great. Onyedem graded out better than he has. He has been underwhelming lately. Yep. So no, it was very surprising. Not that they bounced back. It was just, holding them to 17. It was like that's a huge win for that.
And
group.
By the way,
Cincinnati
averages more yards per game than Iowa State does. Like that's a decent offense.
Also, I'd like to make the point, like, good on the offense. Like, this is my favorite part of the game. They had the fumble, right? And you give it back, and you're like, oh shit.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Right, like it felt like, oh no. Get it back. You're up by 3, and it was like, okay, the offense needs to go and just take the damn game, and that's exactly what they did.
Yep.
Like they did not want to give that ball back to Iowa State's defense in that point. Like the offense needed to go and win that game for its team. And I was proud of that group. Not only that they did it, but the way that they did it by killing 7.5 minutes, multiple third down conversions by Rocco and those wide receivers with some tough plays. Tight ends made some plays. I thought that was really impressive. That was a character type drive. Like one of the best drives you'll see Iowa State have all year.
Yeah, and as much as people have been critical of the offense at times this year, and I get it. Like it's an easy thing to, specifically the offensive line. How many games now has Iowa State needed a scoring drive late and gotten it almost every single time? And you look at the Iowa game, look at that drive late. You look at the UCF game. Iowa State needed multiple of those. You look at the Texas Tech game, it gets lost because Iowa State ended up losing that game. But that offense had a monster drive there to take the lead. And then now this game where you needed a drive, Iowa State found a way to do it against West Virginia. Similar situation, you just put them away. So that, yes, there is clearly the offensive line in particular has kind of been average at best recently, but they're finding ways to still win games. And I don't care. At the end of the day, the social media and everything, people are still pretty amped up after the game. Iowa State's 8-2. Like,
we talk about that with the crowd.
It's I mean, it's just like it was weird because I log on to Fanatic and I understand it's not representative of everybody, but even some of the text message I was getting from some friends and some people that are usually pretty level-headed, that even after the game, they're like, wow, that was pretty ugly. And it's like, well,
God, I didn't think I was ecstatic after the game.
Iowa State's 8-2. I mean, the top 3 threads on Fanatic after the game, it was, what's wrong with the field? Why is Iowa State wearing black again? And, it's just like, Iowa State's 8-2. It's like, sometimes we look for things to not be too excited about. Maybe it's minority. I get it. And you always hear the negative things first. But
yeah,
I just thought that was interesting.
I think we all in sports media definitely overreact to our Twitter audience.
Yes.
I think that is a proven fact that still the overwhelming majority of those people at that game are not on Twitter. Like it's just a fact. And people who have that ability to just chirp all the time, we are included in that. Yep. Like you generally think less, but whatever. I was just surprised. Man, it felt like you could just walk into that game last night.
Yeah, it was
like the amount of tickets available for. I mean, you're 7-2 with the chance to win a Big 12 championship. If that would have been the case 5 years ago, right? Like we would have all like gone crazy. I don't know. Maybe this is just part of like a program growing, and people just expect to be good now. So it's you take it for granted a little bit. I just that stadium like was. I mean. Empty is not the word. It was the sicko crowd that we all love. We've talked about them for years on this show.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the people who were there late in that game. I was surprised. It wasn't a bad crowd. Like
historically not bad at all.
No, I'm not. I don't want to overreact to this. Because in my mind, I don't know. Like I understood like last week sucked and like everybody was kind of down last week and whatnot. I don't know. Maybe am I overreacting to it? It really felt empty to me. Well, although I will say that the day was great. Like the vibe was high, walking around Ames, doing all that stuff.
And I kind of was getting the feeling midweek last week because I had a lot of people approaching me like, hey, I'm not going to use them. Could the collective use these tickets? And you want my RV spot? Do you want this? Do you want my parking pass? I was like, what?
Oh, I got it a lot too, man.
What went on this week that caused that? Now, I think here's my sociological hat. I think it may be less about the team, honestly, C-Dub, and more about another night game. There are just some people who that's a late night, specifically if you're driving from a long ways away. I think sometimes we see it as, it's these fans and, why aren't they supporting this team that's now 8-2? When a lot of people, it's like, I drive from 3.5 hours away. Game ends at 10:30, 11 o'clock. I'm not getting home till 3 a.m. It's kind of windy. It's kind of cold. I might just sit this one out. Like, I'm going to guess that's a lot of it. But
I get it.
At the end of the day, C-Dub, when you have 50, the paid attendance was 52,800. So you have 9,000 tickets that weren't used. Or paid for, even. And I would say there's some that were paid for.
That's pretty rough. I didn't know it was that low. That's pretty rough.
That's to your point. It was that's a noticeable amount. I mean, it is 9,000 less than the UCF game and the Baylor game. So, yes, is it another night game? Potentially, but that is a market that is a 20% less amount of people, which is significant. So I would be curious, just from those, was it just the night game? Was it the air coming out of a little balloon a little bit with the 2 losses in a row? Was it the weather? I mean, I think it's interesting because, guys, the way this TV thing is set up going forward, we're going to have a lot more night games. It's just the way it is. And, in fact, the K-State game will probably be a night game as well. I don't know that for a fact, but it's just, I know it's November and there's a lot of other things going on, but I would be curious just from the feedback of for those either that went or didn't go, what was the difference between previous games?
Maybe a little bit of a product of your own success too. When you're 7-0 and talking about the playoff
for
and all
sure.
this stuff, and then it just kind of sucks the wind out of it. But I don't know. Like I think you and me, or you especially, but are old school enough where it's just like, this is really good times right now. Like you'd have to kill me to not have me be at that football game on Saturday night.
And I ran the numbers this morning, but I think it goes to both of our points here. And we're now trending towards we're old.
We are.
So it's like now we're the people that all the young people are like, oh my gosh, who are these old people? And I get it. Like that's firmly me. I used the word gal yesterday and somebody made fun of me. He was like, how old are you? Like people don't use the word gal anymore. Anyway,
I say it like 10 times a day.
But in the last 45 years, C-Dub, Iowa State's won 8 or more games for football 5 times in the last 45 years. 4 of those have been in the last 8 years. So half of the time, Iowa State's now won 8 or more. And so I get it. If you're a 20-year-old, half your life, this is the norm. Like this is what you've been doing. Like this isn't the Cincinnati game isn't anything special because you've seen Iowa State win 8 games before. For people like me and you, this is still like phenomenal. Like we haven't seen this before. Now, it's an interesting argument is who's right, who's wrong. There are no right or wrong, but in that, are you should the expectations be higher? And I've heard from some people, I can't support if you're losing games to Texas Tech and Kansas. Like at some point, I gotta show. It's like I don't know about that. There's this whole thing is who needs to control expectations? Is it on the fans to raise those expectations, or should you just be happy for what you see relative to historic success? I don't know. It's an interesting conversation, but it all is because of a good thing, and that Matt Campbell has done things here that simply had never been done before. And this is one of the trade-offs, honestly. When you have so much success, people start expecting more success. And when you don't give it what they're expecting, the disappointment comes in pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, I hope everybody that group of 9,000 or whatever re-engages would be
Me too.
Because we'll get into this Utah game coming up, but I will say the Wilson kid looked pretty good, I thought, in the second half against Colorado, the quarterback. A little more intriguing there, I think, for me. Going into that game, Iowa State, the number grew as far as what Vegas has Iowa State as. Iowa State's now like a 6.5 point favorite in that game. And the sharp early money came in on Iowa State when they dropped that line at 5 last night. So that's encouraging. And Iowa State jumps back into the rankings. I wasn't exactly expecting that, based on, some of these ranking decisions are just staggeringly, mind-numbingly bad. Like, how do you still have one loss SMU sitting in front of BYU, like one spot in front of them? Like, it's the most insane shit you'll ever see. It does not look good for the Big 12 as far as how this playoff thing is going to land. Nope. I'm not surprised by it, unfortunately. Let's get into our Wiffles Hybrids Big 12 segment here, because you will have a better lead on all this stuff. Real quick, want to thank our friend Chappie Andrew Chaplin, real estate agent in Ames. I know you had a business meeting with a high-end gentleman at the old iconic Welch Avenue station.
I did.
Introduced somebody to Chappie about a potential business move in the future. Blum is just negotiating deals for people left and right. But if you are in the need for a realtor in Ames, he is our guy. We've both known him since college, Andrew Chaplin.
I got a message, not from this, so that we had a meeting with a guy on Friday. Then I had another guy message me. He was like, man, that Chappie's just a great dude. What a cool guy. I'm like, yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, you're damn right. Also want to thank our friends at the Iowa State University Foundation, MoveWhatMatters.com. Hit up MoveWhatMatters.com. I would encourage you, with the holiday season, a lot of people doing charitable things, consider our friends at the foundation and make a gift somewhere on campus that is important to you. Sat next to a couple of nice folks from the marching band in the press box on Saturday night.
I got to give a quick shout out. Speaking of the marching band, at one point in the fourth quarter, Iowa State's kind of putting it away. They brought somebody out of the band who did like 20 straight back handsprings on that wet turf. And
Unbelievable.
She didn't slip once. No,
unbelievable.
No problem with her footing, Cincinnati.
Wow. That's good stuff right there. All right, Wiffles Hybrids, Big 12 segment. Plant your independence. Plant Wiffles. So we were all up rooting for Kansas. They did get the win at BYU. We all kind of saw that. We thought that was a stinky line on the week. Kansas is now playing. It's probably like Kansas and Colorado are like the hottest teams in the Big 12 at this particular time. And guess who plays next week? Kansas and Colorado, baby. We'll guess the point spreads here coming up. But Blum, simplify it. What does Iowa State have to do to get into the Big 12 championship?
It's not simple is the problem. I mean, honestly, we're going to tweet it out. You should probably do this to just say, hey, just go yourself to the MRED bracket generator.
Oh, yeah, I got
because
it right here.
There's so many different scenarios that every single game can move it. All simple version, Iowa State needs to win out. Now, there is like one path if they don't, but It's ridiculous. So need to win out. And then either Colorado needs to lose to Kansas or BYU needs to lose to Arizona State and potentially Houston as well. So there's if you're a fan, you're rooting for Iowa State to win, clearly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then Colorado and BYU to lose. Iowa State will have most of the tiebreaker on Arizona State should they be tied because Iowa State beat Cincinnati and Arizona State lost to Cincinnati. And that is the one opponent that would be different of the two.
So definitely we want to root for Arizona State next week in that game. That was the one I had a few questions about.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. And again, there's no hard and fast route because again, I was turning myself into a pretzel watching that game. I had all these different scenarios mapped out. I felt like that meme where I'm like, this is the real culprit, like circling things and lines and all this stuff. But end of the day, you went out and you still need. It's not guaranteed though. You're gonna need help from either somebody beating BYU or somebody beating Colorado. And there is a world where Iowa State could be in a 4-way tie for that second spot. And then it'd be Arizona State potentially who gets the nod based on some weird math. So again, I'm going to tweet it out after this podcast. I encourage everybody to just go do their own work here because there are so many different situations. And these conferences are just unwieldy with as big as they are and how complicated these tiebreakers are. It's almost ridiculous that it has to come down to a random game that Cincinnati might have played against Arizona State in September. Like that could be the difference of somebody making the playoff. And I'm not necessarily an advocate for divisions here.
Millions of dollars for these leagues.
Yeah. But it's just, and we're down to like your 4-1 record against common opponents based on their percentages. It's just like, man, we're really, and there's no great way to do it when you have this many teams in a league and 2 teams make it. It's just bad. It's hard. Mm-hmm. So somebody's going to be upset. And if you're Iowa State, at the end of the day, win. And then, there are several different paths for other teams losing, but it's super complicated, I guess. So that doesn't help at all. I know that doesn't help, but that's really the reality is it's really complicated.
I hate it. We need 10 team leagues. What we need, but here we are.
I'll put it this way, just to make it super, super simple.
Thank you.
The easiest
for all the dummies like me.
The easiest path here is if Arizona State beats BYU next week,
and
Kansas,
which
beats
is
Colorado,
very possible,
and Kansas beats Colorado,
and then you went out. Then you're in.
Yeah. Now there are other avenues around. Like, let me just run this one real quick. Yeah, I mean, the issue is if Arizona State beats BYU and Colorado beats Kansas and Colorado then wins out, Iowa State would lose the tiebreaker to Arizona State in that scenario if it's a 3-way tie between Arizona State, Iowa State, and BYU.
If it's a 4-way tie, Iowa State's in.
Yes. If it's a 3-way tie, Iowa State's out. I mean, this is what's so dumb about it.
That's insane.
It's just like, what? Arizona State beating K-State, as much as I enjoyed that, not horrible. Great. It actually made it extra complicated because now Arizona State's in the conversation. And the more teams are in the conversation, there's more weird metrics that get involved here.
Yeah. Well, so I'm glad that we have you.
Well, I'm glad I have MRED's bracket generator. So just Google, honestly, guys, MRED, so MRED bracket generator. And that's probably your best way to navigate it yourself.
Okay. Yeah, I have spent too much time on that thing, but I'm glad that you're here to make it official for us.
Are you for divisions?
No, I don't like the divisions either.
I don't think that works either. Yeah,
this is better than that. I think at least you're trying to get the 2 best teams. When it's the divisions, it's so intellectually dishonest to be like the Big Ten West is as good as Ohio State or Michigan that was getting left out, right? Like, okay. No, I want the 2 best teams, but we also said it so much during the summer, and you're going to see this all the time now with these at-large teams for the playoff, like are not going to want to be in that game. In a lot of
if I'm an SEC
possibilities,
I want to ride out at 10-2, baby. Like I don't want in that game.
You're good.
Yep.
They'll put you in.
Look at the AP top 10, by the way, and it's just like, oh my gosh, what are we doing?
It's like 4 Big Ten teams in the top 5, and then everybody else in the league just sucks.
Yep. You'd much rather be top heavy, or you can be the SEC and pretend everybody's good. I mean, that's honestly what. And it's still, I'm not going to get over it. The fact that the SEC is playing these broke, pardon my language, earmuffs, these broke ass games right now, it's just, it's infuriating. They play one more. They have one less game than everybody else. And it doesn't, and yet they get the advantage because everyone's good. Well, why is everybody good? Because they all get an extra game to beat up on people to elevate their status.
Yeah. It inflates your numbers, it inflates your analytics, all that stuff.
It inflates everything. And it's just this. What sport do we? It's the best dumb sport around, college football. It's the best dumb sport around.
Well, it's why we love it, because of all the carnage.
It's great,
right?
We're just how in the world are they going to choose between 8-2 Tennessee, 8-2 Ole Miss, 8-2 Georgia, 8-2 Alabama, and then Texas, whose resume is honestly not that great, is 9-1. I don't think Texas has beaten a ranked team yet. A team that's currently ranked.
Now I'll be a kind of a dick. Like, Boise being ahead of all the Big 12 teams is staggering to me.
Yes.
Like, who have they beaten? But they have a good loss, okay?
They have a good loss. Yep.
So, like, I mean, look at who BYU has beaten.
Yep.
Up until this point and how they've beaten them. You're telling me that Boise deserves to be ranked higher than BYU?
Yep.
Am I off on that? Like, I was racking my brain on that earlier. Like, am I missing anything there?
I mean, and if they had to escape, they had to escape Nevada a couple weeks. I don't know, man. It's just, I am for, if you are 11-1 or 12-1 or whatever, like, give you a chance at least. But BYU is still getting hosed. BYU is still getting hosed by this whole thing. I mean, to be ranked, as you said, below SMU is ridiculous. All because Kansas is honestly 4-6. That's why. But yet Notre Dame is still in the top 10. CW.
I don't like how this sets up, man.
I don't either.
I am nervous for the Big 12. I don't trust these people.
Like all those SEC schools are going to get in because they're not going to play in the Big 12, the SEC championship.
Correct.
This is actually going to work out better for the SEC to have all these schools with 2 losses.
Couldn't agree more with you. Remember, I told you that it was that day that Alabama lost to Vanderbilt and everybody was excited. I'm like, this isn't good, guys.
Nope.
Like, now they're just a bunch of bubble teams, and the perception, it doesn't matter. The reality doesn't matter. It's all about perception. And the Big 12 had already lost the perception battle.
And because all those schools are so close, the committee's probably just going to say, well, all of them get in. Sorry, Big 12 and ACC. You know, like, there's no difference between those 4 schools. And so you can't leave any of them out. I don't know.
You know what this reminds me of? Presented by WebWise. Try WebWise.com. You do not need to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a solid, really nice website that my guys at WebWise can make for you. Try WebWise.com. It's guessed the point spreads with Bloom, who's been scorching hot.
Heater.
We will do a smidge on Iowa State basketball right after this, so stay tuned to that. All right, the Iowa State-Utah line, we already talked about it. That will be a 6-point spread as of right now.
Utah.
This thing is really flipped. Utah opened early in the year. This is one of those key games as a 9-point favorite over Iowa State.
So I'm going out there with some donors, which will be an awesome trip. Tickets are dropping like a rock out there as far as price.
Well, good.
And you look at Utah, just quick scout, statistical profile, great defense, bad offense. I mean, if you want to simplify it, I think it'd be an interesting matchup. Offense was a little better for them in the second half. Defense was way worse than they have been, but they are good against the run. C-Dub. I think it's super interesting. This is not going to be an easy one. Game time was released last night.
6:30.
6:30 Iowa time, 5:30 out there.
You know what's weird? I'm going to be in Vegas.
What is that? Is that Mountain time?
Yeah, I think. No, I think it might be Pacific. I don't know.
What? Speaking of Vegas, what's the over/under?
Good question. It is 42.5.
Ooh, a low ball.
Yeah.
That's a low.
I'm going to be out there for the Formula One race.
Nice, man.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. But it's good because that game will kick off at like 4:30 or 3, whatever the hell. I don't know. And then the race is that night. So, no, it's perfect.
Fun time.
I was worried. I was just planning on a 9:15 kick here in Iowa for that game. So, nice refreshing.
Yeah,
change of pace.
It's almost like that feels like an afternoon game, even though it's not.
Indiana at Ohio State.
Oh, man. Ohio State's a 9-point favorite.
11.5.
Okay. Hey, real quick, need to mention this. We are doing a game watch that helps out. We will with our friends at Torrance Brewing on Saturday. If you want to go,
one where you got really drunk last year and you were doing all those.
I didn't get drunk, C-Dub. I shotgunned a beer and I made $5,000 for the collective for doing that.
Yeah,
and then I got a sternly worded text message from somebody that's like, "You shouldn't do that."
A cease and desist from the shotguns.
Yes.
Apparently, I posted a super drunk video in my camper after that Tyson fight the other night. I was so pissed. I knew exactly what I was getting into, but it was just like, God.
You can't get mad at that. You knew what you were getting.
No, I know. It's my fault. I'm an idiot. I'm a total idiot. You know me. I'm a hype guy. I fall for the hype.
Mike Tyson.
Speaking of this,
58 years old.
You don't need to guess a point spread here because there is no point spread. I'm just looking at all these SEC games that are UTEP at Tennessee, UMass at Georgia. This is my favorite. This is not an SEC team, but the 1-win Florida State Seminoles are hosting Charleston Southern. Think about Doak on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
There's going to be 10 people at that game.
They can't fire him, though. Did you see his buyout?
Yeah, it's insane. Well, they just signed him because Alabama wanted him last year. That was why he got the contract, because Alabama wanted him.
There are no Power 4 jobs open yet. You saw today, though? I don't know if you saw this. Wisconsin fired its offensive coordinator.
I saw Air Raid dying a slow death.
That's the move now. You're not going to fire coaches. You're going to fire coordinators, which is it's just the way with the lack of money. These schools are not going to pay these buyouts anymore.
Arizona at TCU.
Ooh. Arizona looked better Friday night. Good for them. TCU's a 10-point favorite, though.
11.5. I'm going to give you that. Oh, Citadel at Clemson. Colorado at Kansas in Arrowhead Stadium.
Man. Shout out Colorado. Good for you guys, actually.
I will give you a quick hint. The original line came out, and it is moved in Kansas's behalf. So people are betting Kansas.
The way Kansas is playing, I think this is 1 point Colorado.
2.5.
Okay.
Our friend Austin Narber texted me middle of the day yesterday, and he wanted my projection for this game. And it's super confusing with Arrowhead and all that. And I had it at Colorado -1, but that was before Colorado had blown out
on the doors
Utah, and then so right in the ballpark. Yeah.
So interesting, Colorado's America's team. They get all this hype, and imagine that it'll be a popular ticket for that one. The prices are about 40% less than the Iowa State prices.
Yeah, that's dicks. Central Florida is at West Virginia.
Man, Neil Brown, tough.
Neil Brown, I've never seen a guy who's just been on the hot seat for so long like this.
Can't handle success.
It's like he just teases these West Virginia fans. Oh, we're back. We're going to lose 2 in a row.
We lose by give up 50 to Baylor. I would say West Virginia is a 3-point favorite.
Wrong. Central Florida is a 3-point favorite.
Oh, that's a big miss. Whoa. Yeah.
Texas Tech at Oklahoma State.
Yikes. This is hard. Tech 5.
4. It's a win.
Okay.
BYU at Arizona State.
Man. Coach of the year, Kenny Dillingham? Question mark.
I mean, he has to be. They were picked dead last in the league.
Right. They are favored in this game, I would guess. I will say Arizona State at 3.
3.5. Well done. Actually, it opened at 4.
How about BYU? There is a path where they don't make the championship game after starting.
I mean,
whatever they are.
Nothing would surprise me with the way these scenarios work.
I agree.
A little bit interesting. Penn State at Minnesota. I'm just looking at some of these at-large type teams.
It's
maybe a shot Penn State could drop one here. Maybe. Probably not.
Yeah. What is? Are they favored by what? 8?
11.5.
Ooh. Who does
Baylor
Iowa
at
play?
Houston.
Oh, Baylor at Houston.
Iowa's at Maryland. The Brian Ferentz Bowl.
Oh yes, of course. Baylor's favored here by 6.
8.
Yeah. Baylor's hot now.
Man, Aranda's he's ready to roll.
Not only is he keeping his job, he might get an extension. They pay
Boise
players.
State, our friends out in Boise are at Wyoming.
Oh my gosh. 17.
I hate how this playoff has
20.
made me hate Boise State.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm with you. 20 points.
23. Army at Notre Dame. I actually think this is like a neutral field in some capacity.
It's like Philly or Baltimore.
Yeah, it's
or
one of
something,
those.
probably.
Yeah.
We being the Big 12, kind of want Notre Dame here.
Absolutely, you want Notre Dame. You need to knock Army's ass out.
Nick, get Army out of here.
Sorry, Army.
Navy's already eliminated itself.
We love you, Army.
Yeah, well, I do
Not
too.
talking
Army.
bad about you.
I bet this is only 10 points though.
Hold on, I lost it because I was looking to see where this is 16.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
No love for the Army.
No. Staggering line.
That's a lot of points.
Texas A&M at Auburn. Does that tickle your fancy at all?
Nope. Certainly doesn't. But it's nice that they're playing actually a conference game. Like, give them credit for that, right?
I just want to point out that Oklahoma is a 14-point home underdog to Alabama. I think that's funny.
What time is that game?
6:30, right?
Oh, at least they get a night game at least.
Yeah.
Hey, congrats, Oklahoma fans.
Hope
You
you're
can
having
watch
fun.
Get destroyed.
See ya. Hi.
It's at night. Enjoy your tailgate, though.
Cincinnati is at Kansas State.
Wow.
God, we got a lot of games next week.
Cincinnati's at K-State. K-State, 11.
8.5.
Ooh. Is that a winner? Is that a miss?
That's a miss. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's a miss. Yeah.
That's a miss. I'm sorry.
That's
Too far off. That will be it for the interesting Iowa State Big 12 games, I think.
The that Notre Dame game is playing at Yankee Stadium.
Aha, I knew it was a neutral field somewhere. All right. Okay, not a neutral field is Hilton Coliseum. The Iowa State men would be playing IU Indy, the 358th ranked team in KenPom, on Monday night.
Our guy Jeff Wood, the legendary Jeff Wood, sponsor of the podcast, Jeff Wood, actually spent some time in Indianapolis. And so he let us know what the story is. IUPUI was a downtown Indy campus offering programs administered by either Indiana or Purdue. They've recently split and now have both IU Indianapolis, which inherited the Jaguars, who Iowa State plays on Monday, and Purdue's Indianapolis campus. Purdue does not offer sports anymore in Indianapolis. So the name, according to Jeff Wood, who is a very smart person, isn't just a rebrand to seem less directional, as you intimated the other day.
That's what it seemed like.
but also reflective of a massive administrative change for IU Indianapolis.
Interesting.
Regardless of what they call themselves, they're an awful basketball program, and this won't be close.
No, these games are brutal. But last tune-up for Maui, you're staring down the barrel of Auburn, currently the top-ranked team in Kim Pom, and it's on after this one. So enjoy it. I love these games are brutal, but I enjoy them for what they are. You're watching practice. You only get so many opportunities to go out to Hilton every year.
I found it interesting, and this is where I'm looking for on Monday. TJ really tightened up the rotation on purpose against Kansas.
He did.
State.
Good catch. He absolutely
really did. And that was in my mind, like, get as many reps for your 9.5, you want to include Watson, as you can. Now, do you do that again, C-Dub, against Indy and just completely destroy them, or you get the Watsons, the Fishes, the Rocks some run here? Noyes? I don't know. I think it's interesting. Like, you don't want to get those guys hurt. I understand that. And the young guys need reps to get better. However, if you want to win Maui, you best
got to go.
Your best 8 need to be ready and get as much. And that's where I disagree. I got in a little bit of a friendly discussion with somebody at the tailgate yesterday. I was like, they're like, why isn't Watson and Noyes playing against the bad teams? Like, listen, if you want to win Maui, your 9 that you're going to trust need to be ready to go. Like, I want them as many minutes as I can together. Yes, ultimately, the long term for Iowa State, you want those guys to get better. But as far as this year, and I think Final Four or bust this year, I mean, not that market, but this team can make a Final Four. Winning Maui would be a huge, huge plus, in my opinion, more so than if you get 8 extra minutes for Demarion Watson and Noyes in a game.
Absolutely. That would be my answer, too.
That's my TED Talk.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Because those guys have to be in midseason form when you're lacing it up against that team.
You can't pull a Thanksgiving tournament last year where Iowa State, walked into and played poorly in Orlando because they hadn't been up to speed quite yet.
The women they have to go to Cedar Falls on Wednesday night. These games are always tough.
Yes.
When you have to go to Drake or when you have to go to Northern Iowa. For the record, the Northern Iowa women right now appear to be 2-1. They lost to Ball State at home yesterday. I have no idea what that means. I think Iowa State's a double-digit favorite in this one, Bloom. But again, you just kind of hold on and hope that they can get it done. I'm trying to see the TV information for this. It'll be something weird. I'm guessing ESPN Plus will be where that game is on.
Yeah, I would assume
Wednesday night.
It'll be on Panther Television, but then via ESPN. Yeah, that's always tricky. I think Tanya
Warren.
They
get Drake next Sunday for what?
Yeah, I think
it's on for the women, and then their next game is South Carolina, the number 1 ranked team in the country.
Yeah, and Connecticut's looming. Iowa's looming. Iowa just beat Drake by double digits today. So and obviously
they're pretty
good. They're good again. You got to go over there. Drake's good. I mean, Drake had a player score 40 today in a loss. So that game, it's there's no more whatever IU Indies coming to town for the women anytime soon.
No, they got a couple of dog games and right in between Thanksgiving and finals week, but other than that, it's on for this team. So this is fun. Next week's show will be crazy because we're leading into Maui, and we might have to record that at midnight. Next Sunday, because I'm coming back from Vegas. I'm getting that Allegiant flight Sunday back. You're coming back from Utah,
from Salt Lake. Yeah,
we might even just see each other at the airport and then come right back and record.
There we go. Let's just do that.
It's gonna be on, but it's okay. I'm excited about this. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
If any Cyclones are going to Utah, give me a shout. I'll be around.
I think
Saturday.
it'll be a decent little group.
I do too. Because there are a lot of fans out there that don't get the chance to go see Iowa State play. So Keith, my guy from Montana, is going to be there. You've met Keith. Keith's the best.
Oh yeah, good dude.
So yeah, I think there'll be a nice contingent of Iowa State fans, which would be good. Out there.
Where are you staying at? Are you close to the stadium, or I don't even know what their setup is?
Yeah, it's stadium's downtown-ish. It's like 5 miles away.
Really?
So There's
Okay.
actually a rail line
Huh.
that connects the stadium to downtown. Now, I'm not going to do that, but anyway, it's very, from what I've heard, it's a really nice setup, but in regards to downtown restaurants, all that good stuff, and then a short drive to the stadium.
I enjoyed my brief run-ins with Cincinnati fans this week.
Yeah, I had one sitting next to me that was phenomenal.
They were awesome.
Yeah,
Like
super
Friday night,
friendly. Yeah.
I saw a few of them out, chatted with them. They were really cool. Also wanted to give a shout out to our friend Tyson Veit, who you saw after the game, the handshake line that was about 30 minutes long of people wanting to give him a hug. So that was cool. I mean, that's one of the pillars of Campbell's program. So glad we beat him though.
Yeah, I'd much rather beat him than feel good for Tyson.
Yeah.
But good guy, and I clearly you saw he had a good plan. Like that first half, Iowa State was, fight won the early battle against Mauser, but Taylor responded in the second half, and I thought was much better, and again largely set up with some of the stuff they had to force early. It finally paid off late.
All right, buddy. Good stuff. We are rocking and rolling here during crossover season. The 8-2 Cyclones. Be a fun week. A lot to hammer out. We'll be back live on Wednesday morning at 9:00. You can join us live. The Wednesday show, more often than not, from now on, is going to be live at 9:00 on Wednesdays. He's Brent Blum. My name is Chris Williams. We'll talk to you later.